Alright, so today's lesson we are going to go over factoring expressions. So to start with this, I want you to look where the laser pointer is at right now. I'm going to kind of show you how you already pretty much know how to do this, but you're just going to be going backwards when you factor expressions. So down here, you know how to do these. This is where we're going to do the distributive property where you go 3 times 2x and then 3 times 2. And that's going to give you a simplified expression. So if I go ahead and do that, 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times 2 is 6. And I put my plus sign in the middle, and that's my final answer, 6x plus 6. Well, here now, when we go up here to factor, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this statement into the distributive property, which is what you just did down there, or what I just showed you and that you know how to do. Okay, so the first thing we need to go over is what is a factor. And you've already worked with factors this year. Remember, a factor is a number that can go into or be divided into all the numbers you're working with. So in this instance, we're working with 15 and 20. Okay, so you're looking for a number that can go into both 15 and 20. And it works best for these if you can find the greatest common factor, which is the largest number that can go into both the numbers you're working with. Okay, so let me show you this one. So we have 15x plus 20. Remember, we want to set it up so it looks like now the distributive property. So what I always do to start is I put a blank for where all my numbers will go, and then I put my parentheses in, blank plus blank. Okay, so now I have it set up so that I can do the distributive property. And what you have to figure out next is your factor, because your factor is always going to go right here. Okay, so what number can go into both 15 and 20? So I know my multiplication table is pretty good, and I know that 15 and 20, 5 can go into both of those. So 5 is what goes there. Okay, because 5 can evenly go into 15 and 20. Okay, so now to figure out what I have left for these two blanks, I have to see how many times can 5 go into 20, and that will go there. And how many times can 5 go into 20, and that will go there. Okay, and I should have said 5 go into 15 up there. So 5 can go into 15 3 times, and then you have your x here, so I want to write my x here. And then 5 can go into 20 4 times, so I just write 4 there. Okay, and then to make sure we're right, we can go ahead and carry out our distributive property where I go 5 times 3x and 5 times 4, and I should come up with this answer. So if I go 5 times 3x, 5 times 3x, I should get 15x, and I do, because 5 times 3 is 15. And then you carry your x, and then plus 5 times 4 should equal 20, so that I get this answer. And it does, 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, and all I just did there was the distributive property, which you know how to do. So when your answer checks out like that, you know you did it right. Your final answer, though, is this. Your 5, and then in parentheses 3x plus 20. Okay? Alright, so now let's try another one. So our next one reads 12 plus 16x. And again, the directions say factoring expressions. So the first step is always to write it out with your blanks so you can do the distributive property. And I'm going to put 2 blanks within my parentheses because I have 2 numbers here. If you happen to have another number here, you could factor 3 numbers, but then you would need another blank. But here you only have 2 numbers, so you have 2 blanks here. Remember, your factor always goes out here. So that brings you to your next job, which is to find the greatest common factor between 12 and 16. Okay, and you might want to use a multiplication table or write out your multiples. But if I wrote out my multiples, I know that 4, 8, 12, 16, 4 goes into both 12 and 16, so 4 is a factor. And since I do know my multiples pretty good, I know that there is no bigger number that can go into both 12 and 16. Okay, so 4 is my greatest common factor. So 4 goes out here. Okay, so now your next step is to figure out how many times can your new factor go into both of your numbers, and those go into your two blanks. So 4 can go into 12 1, 2, 3 times. So I'll write 3 there. And then 4 can go into 16 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So I write my 4 there. And don't forget, since this 16 has an x next to it, we need an x right here. So I'm going to put my x right here. And then I also need to remember to bring down my plus sign. So your final answer is 4 in parentheses 3 plus 4x. Okay, so that's factored out. Now you can check by now doing the distributive property, seeing if you can get the same answer as up here. Okay, so to do the distributive property, you just go 4 times 3 and then 4 times 4x. So 4 times 3 is 12. And then 4 times 4x, well 4 times 4 is 16. And then you carry your x. And don't forget to put your plus sign in. And then that should check out to be the same as where you started. And 12 plus 16x is the same as 12 plus 16x. So you were correct. This is your final answer. You might want to circle that. This is our final answer because it does check out here. Okay?